Hi everyone. We are going to look at this rhetorical analysis. It's a very interesting passage, I think, where you have a poet and she has written a letter to a king and she is requesting that another poet be forgiven and be released from banishment. So it's a nonfiction thing, but it deals with the art of poetry to a small degree too. So I find that a little bit intriguing. Okay, now one of the things that I'm going to show you in this is that there are times for rhetorical analysis that you can do a hook, but hooks are definitely not expected in a rhetorical analysis, and unless you just come up with something that's really easy to do, I wouldn't do them. But because this one, I made the connection so easily with this particular piece, it was helpful because it offers a little bit of an edge to the essay and knocks it up to an 8. It's not the only thing that knocks it up to an 8. It could be an 8 without it, but it solidifies that. So let's start by looking at the introduction. Remember, in the introduction, you need to have a summary, an at-SOAP summary of what you see in the passage, and you also need to have a thesis statement that covers what the writer is doing or what the speaker is doing and why the speaker is doing that. Okay, so let's begin with the introduction. It says, in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, a memorable exchange takes place between Brutus and his wife Portia. Now, this might throw your judge off just a little bit because here I'm talking about something that is not the piece that I will be discussing. I'm going to connect an outside piece to it. So this is a little bit of a risk, but remember, if you can make risks work, it shows that you are a sophisticated writer. So only take risks like this if you can really handle the risk. Portia wants Brutus to reveal his secrets to her, but she knows that as his wife, she is in an inferior position to him. Therefore, she must be wise in how she approaches him. So she reminds him that she is the daughter of the great Cato and the wife of the noble Brutus. The fact that she is so majestically fathered and husbanded makes her pleas more worthy. Elizabeth Barrett Browning may have been familiar with Portia's tactics. After all, she uses them quite well in a letter to Napoleon where she requests his mercy in his future dealings with acclaimed French writer Victor Hugo. Browning's use of words that emphasize the sharp contrast between her status and Napoleon III's, as well as her compelling appeal to his majestic power to offer grace, reveal her cunning nature and eloquence. So you have the hook right here, and then you have a transitional sentence right here, where then it goes into that at-SOAP summary. And lastly, you do have an explicit thesis statement where you see how many devices? 2. And remember, we don't use the word diction. We're very specific. The use of words that emphasize the sharp contrast between her status and Napoleon III's, and then the other device, her compelling appeal to his majestic power to offer grace. So notice how I just didn't say her appeal to ethos or her emotional appeal. I was very specific. And then what do these two things? They reveal her cunning nature and eloquence. Now we're going to go into the first body paragraph. Remember, for the first body paragraph, we introduce our evidence, and then the second half, we explain that evidence. When speaking about herself, Browning uses phrases and clauses like, only a woman, nor am I skilled in the way of addressing kings, and no claim on your majesty's attention except that of the weakest on the strongest. When speaking about Napoleon III, Browning uses phrases and clauses like, great enough, your majesty, and while I supplicate you. All of these snippets from her letter show that she puts herself in a much lower position than Napoleon III. Hopefully you see right there that that's a mini thesis right there, connecting right back to the device and what it does. Now it's going to be further explained. So It's going to take it piece by piece and explain how it's important. What does she want to gain from this? What is she really specifically trying to do? She wants to show Napoleon III that she has the greatest respect for him, and that what she is asking him to do is only a reflection of her trust in his ability to be the greater man. She does not say that Victor Hugo's actions are excusable. Instead, she says the opposite, and she appeals to Napoleon III as a man who is so magnanimous that he is capable, like God, the ultimate pardoner of sins, of forgiving someone undeserving. So right there you can see that the impact on the reader is to literally compare him to God, and to show him how she sees him as one who is ultimately powerful. Now, the next body paragraph should hopefully connect to this very well, so let's go into that. In addition, Browning goes to great lengths to show Napoleon III the rewards he would receive by bestowing forgiveness upon Hugo. She writes, "What touches you is, that, however statesmen and politicians may justify his exclusion, it may draw no sigh from men of sentiment and impulse, yes, and from women like myself. What touches you is, that when your own beloved prince shall come to read these poems, and when you wish him a princely nature, you wish, sire, that such things should move him. He may exult to recall that his imperial father was great enough to overcome this great poet with magnanimity." The repetition of the clause, "what touches you," emphasizes that Napoleon III's decision to forgive Victor Hugo impacts him as much, if not more, than it impacts Hugo. Browning suggests that forgiving Hugo will bring Napoleon III an even higher status in the eyes of his people and his own son, a future prince. She also implies that not forgiving Hugo puts Hugo in a position of power where he is remembered and longed for. Browning understands that what Napoleon needs more than anything is to be seen in a position worthy of adulation, and her goal is to convince him that this particular action secures that position. Now, hopefully you see right here that this is all about reader impact. You do not have analysis if you do not effectively explain how this is supposed to impact the reader. The reader in this case, the audience in this case, is Napoleon III. And this is specifically what she wants him to understand, what she wants him to feel. Now we'll look at the conclusion. Browning is more than an iconic poet. She is a brilliant persuader. Now here is the insight. She understands the power of words, but more than anything, she understands the power of power. See that little twist there? Because it's a repetition. Like Portia, again, we're good cohesion because we're connecting back to the introduction. Like Portia, she knows that men in power need their ego not only stroked, but preserved. One way to do an insight is to go very specific in your explanation, that you want to show very specifically what the writer or speaker is trying to do. Through this letter, though this letter was never sent to Napoleon III, it is a provoking glimpse into the wisdom and grace of a poetess who understood her people and her time.